good people. Joe from Joe's Computer Museum here. Today I'll be discussing some of the finer points of running a personal computer museum. I'll be going over my goals as a private curator, how to acquire new pieces and why, and the important interplay between preservation, restoration, repairs, and upgrades. Now, as a private museum owner, my museum is subject to my personal whims. Unlike an official museum like the Computer History Museum in California, my goal isn't to preserve a piece of computing and technology history or to tell the story of computer science, but rather to preserve a piece of that history in a functional state so that I can go back at any time and relive that history firsthand. The devices in an official museum are maintained in a hands-off environment, meant to be looked at from behind glass and preserved for posterity. In contrast, my personal museum is a hands-on environment and geared towards use and play, a way for me to personally relive the glory days of computers when it was more magic and less science. Acquisition is what I call getting new stuff. The goal here is to affordably obtain pieces that are interesting, pleasing, and if at all possible, unique. With a personal museum, this usually means pieces that have a special meaning to the owner. In my case, this means the kinds of computers I grew up with in the 1980s and 1990s, or anything else that might pique my interest. I'm particularly interested in oddball machines that were popular in other regions, or that can, with reversible modification that is, be coaxed into doing things they were never meant to do. Preservation is about keeping the piece as it is in its acquired state, preventing deterioration, and keeping everything together that came with it, including any software, hardware upgrades, or any peripherals or devices it may have had during its life. Preserving items as acquired isn't a primary goal in my museum. I will at the very least keep everything I acquired with a particular piece and label those items as such so that I know what goes where. However, as my museum is a living museum, pieces will frequently be reversibly modified so that I can play with them in a way that I choose. I also interpret preservation here to mean keep the machine functional, so that when necessary I will perform a repair or upgrade to fulfill that goal. Restoration is about returning the piece to its original out-of-box configuration, including a full cleanup and wipe down, removal of any identifying marks or asset tags, removing any upgrades installed by past owners, or even restoring the operating system to the one that was shipped with the unit. This too is not a primary goal of mine, as the out-of-box state is already very clearly documented elsewhere. I opt for a blend of restoration and preservation, keeping some of those marks and scuffs and tags to remind me the story and history of a particular piece. Each piece, however, will receive restorative remediation where necessary, including surface cleaning, interior dusting, or operating system repair. Again, the goal is restoring function, not necessarily restoring to mint condition. Upgrading means making the machine do more than originally designed, and can go well beyond the scope of any of the 3 previous items. This is most useful if you wish to use a unit on an ongoing basis for work, play, or some other goal. For example, using it as a tool to preserve other machines may require the addition of adapters, drives, or other physical modifications. Repair is all about making a broken machine work again. This is usually the glue that holds the previous 3 scenarios together. After you've restored or upgraded your machine, both of which will likely involve repair, you'll have to preserve it, and that also involves repair. My goals depend on my particular whims in the machine in question. Since I love to relive the magic of these old machines, I always aim for a functional computer that will last as long as, or longer than, I will. My museum efforts tend to be a mix of preservation, restoration, upgrades, and repair. A good example is my PowerMac 5500. I removed the original spinning disk and relabeled it, replacing it internally with a compact flash card. While this isn't a stock original configuration, it does allow me to preserve the original configuration as I received it, and to preserve the long-term functionality of the computer. If you want to start your own computer museum, you have several things to consider, particularly storage space, budget, and your own goals. Are you aiming for professional museum quality, or just something to tinker with? Do you have the space for everything you want? How do you plan to acquire your pieces, through purchase or donation? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, leave a like. That's all for today, and remember, 8 bits are all you need. What are you still here for? There's no bloopers.